Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the online breakfast today. We are from the shortcut, and while everyone is gathering, I will shortly introduce us and today's event and today's speaker. So, the Shortcut is a nonprofit organization owned by the Startup Foundation, and we aim to help people with professional and social integration here in Finland to help find meaningful career or start your own business. So today our guest is Minna Franck from Finnwards. Welcome, Minna.
Thank you.
And our topic today is professions needed in Finland. So in our community, there are a lot of people who are either relocated and looking for a job or decided to change profession. And we decided to take a good look at what professions are needed, and Minna will tell us all about it. So the housekeeping, we will go through our own questions, and then at the end we will be taking questions from the chat. So if you have any questions for Minna, please post them in our chat and I will show them later. And also you can network in the chat, say where you're from, where you are joining us from, and what do you expect from today's event. Yes, but without further ado, dear Minna, please introduce yourself and Finnwards and tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm a co-founder of a small training, consulting, and coaching company called Finnwards. And we provide trainings and consulting and coaching in Finnish work culture, Finnish culture in general, intercultural communication, and things like that. And we provide those services to individuals, their employers, and to different organizations that serve the international community in Finland. And our specialty is online courses about working and living in Finland. We have such courses as your crash course to Finland or renting a home in Finland. But I would, however, like to mention especially our course called Working in Finland. And that's an in-depth course on the laws and regulations that define employment relationships in Finland. And in that, we explain such things as working hours and how vacation time is calculated, rules governing different types of leaves, and so forth. So if you are unsure of your rights and responsibilities as an employee in Finland, this is essential knowledge. In Finnwards, myself and my co-founder bring together many aspects of our own education and professional and personal history, as well as our values. But as for me, myself, I've been a student of cultures and human societies all my adult life. So trying to understand how and why cultures and societies operate the way they do. And a huge part of my working identity is research, studying and reading and writing to understand, and then using that to train and coach and generate insights in others. And in my professional life, I've been a manager and a leader, and at times even without a language in common with those I'm supposed to lead. And I've been an expat and an immigrant myself, and I'm currently one also, since I live here in Estonia with my family. And a big part of the value system that's behind our company is that I'm a strong advocate for making workplaces just for everybody. And that's probably why I'm here today, because I write a weekly blog about working and living in Finland. And in that blog, most of my writings deal with the Finnish labor market and Finnish work life. And our purpose with the blogs is to bring that information to the grasp of those who cannot access this information in Finnish. So I try to write about topics and that increase knowledge of the Finnish labor market, as well as empowers those who navigate that labor market.
Thank you, Minna, for the introduction. And I see that already we have many people joining, sharing in the chat. And so for the next question, exactly like you mentioned, many people in our community do not speak Finnish well enough to work in it or at all. But majority of them have higher education, though, either from their home country or from Finland. So their main work language is English, and they have higher education. And at the intersection of these two dimensions, so higher education and English as work languages. So we want to ask you what kind of professions are in demand and they can look into.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter right now if you follow Finnish language news media or not, but you've most likely heard and discussions about labor shortages impacting the Finnish labor market currently, and even more so in the future. That's why we have some programs like the Talent Boost and all of those programs. Currently, the problem for non-Finnish speakers is that the professions that are currently most in need of workers or of employees tend to be ones that more or less require Finnish. So if we look at the current data, professions most need of workers right now in Finland are these. So you have healthcare assistants, you have nursing associate professionals, social work and counseling professionals, specialists and generalist medical practitioners, and early childhood educators. Most of these professions are also such that they require the legal right to work in these professions. So those that really are the most in need of workers can be quite hard to access without adequate Finnish language skills and without a recognized education or degree. Now, if we look at specific geographical areas in Finland more closely, we get a more nuanced understanding of labor needs. So, for example, in places such as Uusimaa region and Pirkanmaa, both of which have the sort of the highest concentrations of non-Finnish residents, in addition to the healthcare professionals, there is a shortage of civil engineers, electrical engineers, electronics engineers, telecommunication engineers, different types of IT professionals, and construction supervisors. Construction, especially, is something is an industry that now requires a lot of workers, but most of those are not professions that require higher education. But there are these supervisor positions that usually do require that. Now, to what extent these are open to applicants without Finnish skills obviously depends on the job and depends on the employer. I mean, in theory, these types of engineering positions in the technical fields are easier to access for non-Finnish speakers than healthcare and social services professions. But that's in theory, you know. It depends on what the employer wants and what their readiness is to accept employees who don't speak Finnish. But with regards to Finnish language requirements, I want to suggest something, that if and when you see an English language job ad that you find interesting, but that still requires Finnish skills, I would suggest to call them and find out what kind of Finnish skills they really require and in what context. For example, do they expect the employee to be fluent in writing and listening and understanding, or is it enough to, for example, be able to read technical manuals in Finland or whatever? I mean, because there are different levels and different skills in language skills as well. And it might be that the employer really hasn't even thought through this requirement properly. So they might calling them and asking about this requirement might make them think what it is that they actually do want and do require. So those professions that I just mentioned are what Finland currently needs, and also sort of in the near future. If we then look further into the future, it's difficult to pinpoint the needs at the professions level or occupations level. There are, however, efforts that try to predict these needs so that the Finnish education system can respond to the needs of Finnish industries and Finnish society. And for example, the technology industry employers of Finland very recently published its future employee needs assessment for the industries they represent. And these industries are such as IT and machine and metal production, electric and electronics industry, metal refining, and design and architecture. And according to them, their industries need people with expertise in, for example, in artificial intelligence, in circular economy, sales, structural engineering and structural design, product management, maintenance, manufacturing, mechanical and production engineering, and industrial automation. And that's not the full list. That is just, I picked up some of the examples of what they mentioned. So that's what the technology industry in Finland thinks that they need. And they say that they need a lot of new employees in their industries. A more comprehensive assessment is the one made by the National Forum of Skills Anticipation. And this is a joint expert body of the Ministry of Education and Culture and the Finnish National Agency for Education. They collaborate with, for example, Finnish companies to come up with estimated employment needs for dozens of different industries in Finland. And the reason they do this is that they try to anticipate what is needed and therefore how the Finnish education system should respond to those needs. And they estimate that the new jobs will concentrate particularly in the health services sector, in education, in land and water construction, in real estate, social services, and in the manufacturing industry, so manufacturing machines, vehicles, and metal products. So that's sort of in if we look at current needs, we can look at occupational level, and then if we look further into the future, we cannot really talk about professions. We more talk about sort of collections of skills and things like that.
Yes, looks like a very good list, and I hope that our audience is taking notes of this. However, I think that if you already have degree in this area, that's great for you. But if you don't, then my next question for you, Minna, is so for those who have a degree from home, what degrees are easy to confirm here? And on the flip side, so what degrees are worth pursuing here? So two questions in one, in a way.
So when it comes to having your foreign degree officially recognized, you need to find out whether you really have to and what that process actually means for you. Because, I mean, there are obviously professions that you cannot practice in Finland without the legal right to do so. So, for example, you cannot practice medicine unless you're a certified healthcare professional. I mean, in these cases, you absolutely need to go through the process of degree recognition and certification if you want to continue your profession in Finland. Doing this usually means that you need to have a certain level of Finnish to be able to do it. And it often also means that you need to study more, since your degree might be missing some aspects that are included in that degree in Finland. Then there is another group of professions where the qualifications that the office holders are required to have are defined by law, but the practice of the profession is not illegal without them. So, for example, sometimes the required qualifications are defined only in cases where the employer is a public institution or a publicly subsidized institution. And this includes, for example, teachers. The difference is that if you are a doctor by training, you cannot practice medicine in Finland unless you have the legal right to do so. But as a teacher is allowed to teach, but they cannot get a job as a teacher in the Finnish educational system without the right qualifications. And then there are also professions where you need to have a certain type of certification to be able to work in that profession, regardless of who the employer is. A good example would be, for example, supervisors of electrical works. So in this case, you cannot be in a supervisory position and be responsible for the electrical settings without the certification. But you can still do electrical work. Someone with the certification would then just need to sign off on what you've done. And not having a certification would then not prevent you from getting a job, but it would prevent you from acquiring more responsibilities and therefore also higher pay. And then outside of those and similar cases where a recognition process is a must, then the question is whether it makes sense to have your degree recognized even if there is no sort of official reason to do so. Just to have that official stamp that your degree is equivalent to a Finnish degree of the same field. And I would say that it depends on where you think you will be working. Like, I would say that normally the private sector really doesn't care of this recognition process. In the public sector, it often makes you eligible for certain jobs, but it doesn't guarantee you a job. So it really depends on what it is that your degree is in, and what type of job you would like to do, and what type of employer you would like to have. In all of these cases, or most of these cases, the process still requires Finnish studies. It also most likely requires some kind of additional things that you need to do. Like, for example, in many cases, the minimum requirement for a job in the public sector might be a master's degree, whereas you have a bachelor, so you need to sort of upgrade your skills. Or you might have to add some new studies to supplement what you already have. And the Finnish National Agency for Education provides information about that. And would you please put the link up there so people can find additional information?
Yes, here goes.
Yeah. And then there are public services that help highly educated immigrants with these processes, that help them sort of figure out if they need to have their skills recognized and what that process means for them. And that's called so-called SIM services. And there's a link for that as well. So you can, these are usually done at universities or universities of applied sciences usually have these services. These are not restricted to their students, so it's not. They are just housed in those institutions. So if you would put that up as well, have that link for the SIM services. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they will help you figure out what it is that in your specific case, what it is that you need. But what I would say is that, you know, not everybody has to go through this recognition process. And then you asked about sort of advice on re-education. In case, did you say that already, or?
Yeah. So kind of what kind of degrees are worth pursuing was part of previous question, and also want to ask you about re-education if people decide to do that.
Yeah. Well, re-education, at least for me, it's a difficult question to answer, because as a coach, I believe that these type of decisions are deeply personal and should come from the needs and desires of the individual themselves. So I'm not in a position to tell people that, you know, you should focus on this or go to that direction. But also, I think this question, sort of the question of completely re-educating to some other field, that implies that the career change is something that this person didn't look for or didn't anticipate before moving to Finland. And these type of unplanned career changes can be really emotionally painful. And that's because one is forced to sort of let go of a future path they had envisioned for themselves. And they're also possibly forced to let go of a part of their identity. So, for example, if I cannot be a lawyer, what am I then? And these can be difficult and painful questions to answer. So rather than sort of giving advice on re-education, I would suggest trying to be very forgiving to oneself and not be surprised by some potentially very strong emotions that go along with this type of identity rework. And if you have the time and the resources, rather than sort of rushing into a new long-term commitment of a new education or a new sort of commitment to a new career, just take some time and try out new working identities. And what I mean by this is that try to find ways to do small projects, volunteering, internships, short courses, or temping, for example, in those new fields that you are interested in. So trying on these new working identities, what it is that I would like to be or do and what sort of fits me. And by trying out these new identities, you know whether the new work or the new field is right for you. So before you make a commitment to start, like let's say a 4 or 5 year new program to find a new career, try to find ways to figure out if this is what you really want. And also talk to people in these new professions and fields that you are exploring. Ask people about their work, what it is that they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, and what their normal day is like, and how they ended up in their current profession or a job, and what skills they say that the person in this job needs. And so by doing so, you will get a sense of whether this new profession or career will satisfy you. And by talking to people, you get some idea of what it is that you need to do in order to acquire these new skills, in order to get where you want to go. And by interacting with these people in your new potential field, you get a sense of whether these people could be your tribe, whether these people are the type of people that you can imagine hanging out or sort of spending your working life with. So, I mean, sometimes it might make sense to start a completely new degree from the start. Sometimes you might find out that shorter educational commitment might suffice. Like, for example, you might do some sort of a certificate in something. And sometimes you might find that you actually don't need any additional education. And sometimes you might find that rather than taking on a whole new degree, you might actually benefit more from focusing on learning Finnish. So that's why I don't want to give a sort of a blanket recommendation for people, because everybody's situation is different. The problem is that Finland tends to be a very degree-centric country, meaning that we focus on degrees quite a lot, and it often functions as the sole proof of skill. But regardless of this, I would still sort of advise to try out, sort of explore, and not just by reading about stuff, but trying to get into projects, trying to volunteer and do stuff. Sort of the physical act of doing something tells you a lot more about what it is that you enjoy and don't enjoy. And also, and as a reminder, changing working identity, changing your identity from one professional identity to another is not easy. So give yourself time and understand that process. But in case you do want to explore educational opportunities, there's a link to a study info that has degree programs and different type of things that you can look into in Finland. So if you would put that up there. Yeah. So there you go. Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Minna, for not, like you said, not responding to this question with a blanket answer, because I do think that I agree with you very much that it takes a lot of effort to receive a new degree, and instead, indeed, it's good to focus on just learning a new skill. I'm looking on the chat a little bit, and I will shortly take a couple of questions from there that are to me. So for those who did not see the links before on LinkedIn, now Victoria is posting them. So you will receive all the links also in the chat. And will this video be available after it's finished? Yes, it will be up on the Shortcut website and our channels. So please welcome to see those. Yes, but about skills. So then, in case you do not have time or the heart to pursue a new degree, we already talk about what professions are needed. But if not, take on a whole new profession, that what skills are needed?
Yeah, I mentioned previously that the Technology Industry Finland website also provides information that the type of skills that are needed in different technology industries in Finland. It's unfortunate that this website is only in Finnish, but let me go. There we go. So if we, for example, look at what they have for the engineering and design industry, the skills that they say are needed in that industry are, for example, business development, circular economy, that comes up a lot, inclusive leadership, sales, design knowledge, and software skills, and project management. And then the way that they've sort of set this website up is that then you can look at these individual skills a little bit more closely and look at what it is that they include in, for example, business development skills. And what they say is included in business development skills is, for example, leadership development skills, communication and interaction skills, organizational development skills, project management, product development, product management, and negotiation skills. And as we just talked about education, I want to mention that this website also tells you a little bit about the educational background of people who've been employed in these industries lately. So I just pulled up the engineering and design industry. And the way that the website works is that they have these degrees separated in the different educational levels that we have in Finland. I didn't put up here the vocational level because we are now talking about highly educated individuals. But this is the variation in degrees of people who've been employed recently in these industries. So you can see what type of, obviously there's a lot of engineering, but there's also an MBAs are there, both in sort of or business administration, both in terms of BAs and MBAs. So that website is informational, but like I said, it's available only in Finnish. And then I mentioned the National Forum for Skills Anticipation, and the job of that forum is to anticipate also sort of educational needs. But they have also published their assessment of the skills that will be needed in Finland in different fields, and they divide the skills to generic skills, skills needed in working life, and digital skills. And I'll just show you the information they have for the manufacture of electrical and electronic equipment for that industry. So this is what they have there. So this is quite a list. But this information is available also in English. So these skills will have a, I think I have a link for you later on. So these are the sources that you can use to look up what it is that these different industries actually require in terms of skills.
Yes, so these are a little bit small, so I don't know, Minna, if you will be able maybe to share the slides with us later, so that then...
I can. There's a link to these. These are called skill cards. So it's a PDF document in English, and I think I have a link that I sent you earlier, but we can talk about it. You can put it up.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
I will look through my links.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, I want to take some questions from the chat. So let's hear from our listeners, and let's start with Iris. Her question is about age. Is there an age limit to change career? Does it make sense to start from zero and do entry-level job at age 40 and expect career development?
Again, I don't like giving sort of blanket statements like that. What makes sense is what makes sense for you, and your situation, and what it is that you want to do, and what is the industry or the field that you are changing into. So I don't think there's a yes or no answer. I think it depends, but I would encourage you to look into it. Like I said, try out this new identity, this new work identity that you are planning, or if you have several different options, try them out. Volunteer, do projects, and usually I would say that there's more than one way to get to a goal. So if you want some sort of a career result, there's usually more than one way to get there. And exploring different ways of getting there, I would advise you to do that. And it might be that the right way for you to get there is to start a completely new degree from scratch. It might be. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the question and Minna for the answer. Let's take some more. Katerina is asking, what are the options for learning a professional language for each profession needed for people without the need of a new recognized degree?
What are the options for learning? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. There are often sort of, if you need to enroll in a into a school or sort of University of Applied Science or whatever, to supplement the career that you already have, in order to get recognized. These institutions then usually offer language training as well. You can try to do that on your own. For example, you can hire a tutor or a coach and things like that. But again, I think it depends. But like, for example, in the healthcare industry, the understanding sort of the technical issues, the technical language is probably not enough, because you need to be able to interact with the people that you are taking care of, and that's a whole different type of language skill again. But those Simhe services that you have a link to now, they are good because they can then focus on your individual situation and see what it is that you will actually need. So I would suggest reaching out to those services, because they can give you the sort of personalized help that you might need, because all of these situations are a little bit different, and people have different qualifications and different type of degrees from different places.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question, Katerina. Mm-hmm. And I did find the links we were talking about and sharing them.
Yeah.
Next question is from Zaid. Zaid is asking, does pedagogical certificate required for educational job?
General answer for that is yes. If you want to have a job as a teacher, and now I'm talking about elementary school teachers and high school teachers, teachers in vocational education institutions, all of those require pedagogical education. How much and what type depends on the, so there's different requirements for vocational school teachers compared to elementary school teachers. So the requirements vary, but yes, you need to have pedagogical education to work in a public institution or publicly funded institution. Yeah. And those, and you can at least for if you're planning on sort of teaching at the vocational level, you can get pedagogical certificates in English in Finland. So there are universities of applied sciences who provide those degree programs or certificate programs.
Next question is from Marianne about the research about skills, but I think I have shared the link. So once again, putting it up here, and also it should be now in all chats.
Yeah. There was one, I don't know if I am not following the chat, so I'm not. So there's one that was the occupational barometer, ammattibarometri linkki.
That one was, that one was in my next list, sharing it now.
Yeah, because that one shows the short-term, sort of short-term needs at the occupational and professions level in different areas of Finland. So that is based on estimates by the employment offices in Finland, and they predict the need 6 months to the future. So they publish these assessments 2 times a year, and they show if there is a lack of applicants or extreme lack of applicants, or if there are too many applicants and things like that for a number of professions in Finland. And so you can look at your own larger geographical area and see what it is that is needed currently. But that doesn't that doesn't extend sort of 2 years from now or 5 years from now. That's sort of a short-term assessment.
Yes, thank you for that question. And Bastian from the chat, I will just gonna read it out, says that our team on FlexNet also has employees that above 40 and made a career change. So yes, it is possible. Yes. So some evidence from our listeners. The next question to Minna will be from Marianne. And as we were talking about trying out this new professions, Marianne is asking, where can we find volunteer opportunities and projects?
It depends on, I'm just going to let me just give Google one thing and I will show you the link. There we go. Just 1 second. There are obviously places, okay, I will send this to you, Ekaterina, there we go, I think, if that comes to you, I'm not sure. There is a website, there we go, this vapaaehtoistyö, volunteering opportunities in Finland. So this is one way to look for different types of volunteer projects. And there are various different things that you can do in these volunteer jobs and sort of trying to figure out what it is that you enjoy, what it is that you like, for example. So you can, in addition to sort of just generating good in society, you can use this also for your own benefit in that sense. So that's one avenue to look for.
Yes, and I would add to this that there are many associations in Finland and many groups. For example, I have met many of my network in International Working Women of Finland group, which is also where I usually read Minna's posts. So that's also one good place to go. But basically, there are a lot of unpaid opportunities. Actually, there are more unpaid opportunities sometimes than paid if you don't have experience. So make sure to leverage those. Yes. So I don't have any more questions in the chat so far, but I will take one question, the last one from myself. So I know, Minna, that you are doing a lot of research before you publish your blog and also preparing for us today. So many people in our community are researchers, also working on this or other topics, and for them would be interested what is the research that you usually, what are the research sources that you are usually using?
For this particular topic, or for topic in general, or?
I would say for this topic.
For this topic, the occupational barometer that I mentioned, that's published 2 times a year, that is informational. Then I look at the different types of trade unions or employer unions, like the technology industry of Finland. I think there's a link. I think I sent you a link for that too. It's the osaamispulssi.fi. Unfortunately, that is only in Finnish. But if you try to use Google Translate, maybe it will help. But that's a good source. Different chambers of commerce often publish surveys that they ask from their employer members about, you know, what it is that they need, and then the government of Finland, the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment, often publishes industry info. So, for example, they do forecasts about, for example, the future of, let's say, the hospitality industry of Finland or whatever. So then they project how many new employees they need, and so forth. Those are always only in Finnish. So there's a lot of information available in Finnish about labor shortages and what type of skills and professions are needed. But I think the best one that's in English is the National Forum of Skills Anticipation links that we already put up there with skills cards and employer needs.
Yes. So this was about it from my side, and I don't think we have more questions in the chat, but we have very good networking going on. So shout out to those sharing their profiles and what they are doing. Thank you, Minna, very much for these answers. And this event, again, will be recorded and will be available on our channels, but also I will send all the links to the participants in case you missed some of this material. Please follow Minna and Finnwards. Yes, Minna, something
else?
I
was going to say about sort of labor shortages. I have quite a few blogs about this where I've used a lot of this information, and you can look at those as well and read a lot of this, what I said, and even more in the blogs.
Yes, please follow Minna and her blog. There's a lot of great information there. And also, please check out, if already you haven't, I assume many of those who are watching us today already have, but please also check out us, theshortcut.org. So we own professional and social integration here in Finland. So we have many of these things that we were speaking about today, like short-term courses to acquire certain skills, like, for example, digital marketing and growth hacking. Then we have coding programs, we have HR programs, we have entrepreneurship skills programs, and those are typically short-term. So that's a very good way, I think, to look into things that you want to work in. Most of those programs are going now as part of our Spark Academy. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and see you in 2 weeks in our next event. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.